Today I'm going to tie one of the most productive sea-run brown trout flies or patterns that has ever been produced. A mainstay for your box if you're heading to Iceland to fish. So I'm tying this pattern as a tube fly. That's the way I'm used to doing it. You can of course tie the exact same pattern using a standard streamer hook. I just like the tube version because I can switch out hooks from singles to doubles, even to trebles, which can shock some people, but we do use them from time to time here in Iceland. Now I'm going to be tying this pattern using the SemperFli Nano Silk. Just a preference for the larger flies that I have. I like the fact that I can put a little bit of pressure on it without having to worry about it breaking. Now the tube system that I'm using is from Frodin. Should be available at frodin.com or mikaelfrodin.com, I'm not sure which it is, but you can use of course any tube system that you prefer. The color of the tubes are not too important. We're going to be covering most of this up anyway, but if you have a preference, go for it. So I'll start the pattern out at the back. What I'm using for the body and the underwing is this here, Ice Wing Fiber UV Silver from Hareline. This is a pretty amazing material. As you can see, it's really shiny. Has some like UV purple thing going on. And the good thing about this is that the fibers are like really fine. So it's really easy to dub with, and it's a great material for wings and stuff like that. I will say that almost every material of this pattern is, you can change it out pretty much. You can get this thing, the ice wing fiber and the silver fibers that we're going to use for the main wing. You can get them from a number of manufacturers, and so you don't need to follow everything to a T. So I'm going to start out with a little bit of a bump at the back. If you didn't notice it, I put a little bit of sap gap into the dubbing noodle just to secure it better. Now the tail is really a part of the underwing. I'm just going to take some material out of the back and form a little bit of a tail. There you go. It's too long, we'll trim it down. Save this for later because we're gonna keep dubbing the body. There. So now we use the same material as dubbing. Just form a basic noodle. And move up the tube. There. Now the underwing, as I mentioned earlier, it's the same material. We're just going to use it a bit differently. Pull out a handsome amount. And what I do is I double it over. And measure. I want it to be a bit shorter than the main wing that we're going to tie on a little bit later. But for this pattern, if you're not, if the lengths aren't, to a T, we can always trim it down with the scissors. I don't know if you can hear it, but at the time of this video, the weather in Iceland is rough. You can hear the wind blowing. So we're going to do a little bit of a hot spot on the underside. I'm going with the ice dubbing from SemperFli. Doesn't have to be this, of course. I like the ice dubbing because it has this, as you can see, it has this sheen to it. So it's even more pronounced. You can use red wool or yarn, pretty much anything. Just make sure that it's red. The fibers in this dubbing they're like really long. So I like to double and even triple over. And when I do, it's a good thing to try to taper the dubbing a little bit. That's what we're going for, basically. There we go. And at this point, I mean, we're tying with these artificial materials, basically. And we're using the nano silk, so everything can get a bit slippery. So using a bit of Sapagap just to lock everything in place it's not a bad idea. All right, now the main wing, the material that I'm using is from Sybai. Tinsel hair, super shiny, and a great material for the wing of this pattern. The pattern is called Super Tinsel, of course, and you could even say that it's kind of named after this material. So what I do is I take, similar to this one, this material, I just take a clump of hair out, double over, and even triple over. Now one thing that is quite important when you're doing the wing is if you're using this material, I don't know if you can see it properly, but some of the hairs or fibers, whatever you want to call it, some of them are like straight and the others are crinkly, and you want this crinkly. So what I do is I hold the end between my fingers and I just mass them between my left hand, in my left hand rather. And I do this a couple of times just to get the right characteristics. There you go. And the same goes for this wing as this one here. If you don't have the length perfect, you're probably not gonna get the correct length. We're gonna trim this down, so don't worry about the length. Looks good. There. Now the only natural material for this pattern is the collar. I'm using hen hackle. And I want it to be full, so I'm actually going to pair two together and double over and do the collar from 2 feathers. Of course, if you have like really good quality material, you might not have to do this. So align the feathers or the tips, cut out a little tag. Tie it in. It can be a bit challenging to hold both stems together, but if you just go slowly, it usually comes off. One more. And tie it down. We've got a bit of trimming to do. Secure it a little bit better and tie it off. To finish off the fly, before we do any trimming or anything like that, we're going to put a tungsten cone. The color is Gunsmoke. This one's from, you'll see it better like this. This one's from Mikael Frodin as well. The thing I like about using a single system for the tube flies is everything matches. The sizes of the tubes and the cones, you don't have to, you're not mixing and matching basically. So what I do when attaching the cone is I put a little bit of super glue just to secure the tie off. Then I'll take the cone and press it on. Hold it for a couple of seconds just to allow the Zappa gap to catch it. There. We've got some trimming to do again. take your scissors, cut at an angle. Might need to wet your fingers a little bit just to get the correct, you know, how the wing is laying. The funny thing is with fly tying, if you would be tying this for Instagram or something like that, you could spend probably 10 minutes giving it the real good trimming. But the fly will fish as it is, with the wing as it is. But before we finish off, remove the tube. You're gonna shorten the end a little bit. Take your lighter and just touch the plastic a little bit. So the Super Tinsel, an absolutely amazing pattern for sea run brown trout and even Atlantic salmon in some cases. It's a great pattern. If you're heading to Iceland, going for sea run browns, please tie some up for your box. Thanks for watching.